Hi all, welcome to i-TUTOR IAS Academy Tamilnadu History NCERT series. Today we are going to discuss Unit 10. Okay, that is Harshavardhana. The time period of Harshavardhana is 606 to 647 AD. That is around 7th century CE. Who is Harshavardhana? Why important? Okay, so Harshavardhana is a major figure in Indian history because he unified much of North India, creating a large stable empire after Gupta decline. Last unit, we discussed about the decline of Gupta empire, and he known for political stability and administrative efficiency and patronage of art or learnings. He was a poet, patron of Nalanda University, promote Buddhism, and is remembered as a kind, capable ruler and one of the last great monarchs before later invasions, marking a significant cultural and political epoch. Okay, that's about Harshavardhana, and the further we will discuss. So, decline of the Gupta Empire was followed by a period of political disorder and the disunity in North India. It was only in the beginning of 7th century AD, and the Harshavardhana succeeded in establishing a large kingdom in North India. The chief sources for tracing the history of Harsha and his time are Harsha Charita, written by Bana, and the travel accounts of Huan Sang, and Bana was the court poet of Harsha, and Huansang was the Chinese traveler who visited India in the 7th century AD. Beside these two sources, the drama written by Harsha, namely Ratnavalli, Nagananda, and Priyadarshika, also provide useful information. And Madhuban plate inscription and the Sonpat inscription are also helpful to know the chronology of Harsha, and Bankera inscription contain the signature of Harsha. Okay, so these literary sources, inscriptions are the sources of this time period. And what about early life of Harsha? The founder of the family of Harsha was Pushyabhudi, and Pushyabhudis were the feudatories of the Gupta. They called themselves Vardhanas. After Hun invasions, they assumed independence. The first important king of Pushyabhudi dynasty was Prabhakara and his capital was Taneshwar, north of Delhi. He assumed the title Maharajadiraja and Paramba Bhaktakara. After Prabhakara Vardhana's death, his elder son Rajavardhana came to the throne, and he had to face problem right from the time of his accession. His sister Rajashri and married the Mokhari ruler called Grihavarman, the ruler of Malwa. Devagupta, in league with Sashanga, the ruler of Bengal, had killed Grihavarman. And immediately on hearing this news, Rajavardhana marched against the king of Malwa and routed his army. But before he could return to his capital, he was treacherously murdered by Shashanka. And in the meantime, Rajashri escaped into forest. Harsha now succeeded his brother at Taneshwar, and his first responsibility was to rescue his sister and to avenge the killings of his brother and brother in law. He first rescued his sister when she was about to immolate herself. Next is Harsha's military conquest. In his first expedition, Harsha drove out Shashanka from Kanauj. He made Kanauj his new capital, and this made him the most powerful ruler of North India. Harsha fought against Duruvasena II of Vallabhi and defeated him. Durvasena too became a vassal. And the most important military campaign of Harsha was against the western Chalukya ruler Pulakeshin II. And both the accounts of Huansang and the inscription of Pulakeshin II provide the detail of this campaign. Harsha, with an ambition to extend his kingdom south of the Narmada River, marched against the Chalukya ruler. But the Aihole inscription of Pulakeshin too mentions the defeat of Harsha by Pulakeshin, who after this achievement assumed the title Parameshwara. Huansang account also confirmed the victory of Pulakeshin. And Harsha led another campaign against the ruler of Sindh, which was an independent kingdom. But it is a doubtful whether his Sindh campaign was a successful one. Nepal had accepted Harsha's overlordship, and Harsha established his control over Kashmir, and its ruler sent tributes to him. He also maintained cordial relation with Bhaskara Varman and the ruler of Assam. Harsha's last military campaign was against the kingdom of Kalinga in Orissa, and it was a success. Thus, Harsha established his hold over the whole of North India. The regions modern Rajasthan, Punjab, UP, Bihar, and Orissa were under his direct control. But his sphere of influence was much more extensive. The peripheral states such as Kashmir, Sindh, Wallaby, and Kamarupa acknowledge his sovereignty. This is Huan Sang picture in this slide. So, Harsha and Buddhism. What about Harsha and Buddhism? In his early life, Harsha was devout Saiva, but later he became an ardent Hinayana Buddhist. Huan Sang converted him to Mahayana Buddhism. Hope you remember what is Hinayana Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. We discussed in Buddhism chapter, Buddhism and Jainism chapter, right? So Harsha prohibited the use of animal food in his kingdom and punished those who kill any living being. And he erected thousands of stupas and established travelers' rest all over his kingdom. He also erected monasteries at the sacred place of Buddhists. Once in 5 years, he convened a gathering of representatives of all religions and honored them with gift and costly presents. He brought the Buddhist monks together frequently to discuss and examine the Buddhist doctrine. Next is Kanauj Assembly. Harsha organized a religious assembly at Kanauj to honor the Chinese pilgrim Huan Sang towards the close of his reign. He invited representatives of all religious sects, and it was attended by 20 kings and 1,000 scholars from the Nalanda University, and 3,000 Hinayanists and Mahayanists, and 3,000 Brahmins and Jains. The assembly went on continuously for 23 days. And Huyan Sang explained the value of Mahayana doctrine and established its superiority over others. However, violence broke out, and there were acts of arson, and there was also an attempt on the life of Harsha. Soon, it was brought under control, and the guilty were punished. On the final day of the assembly, Huan Sang was honored with a costly presents. And next is Allahabad Conference. Huan Sang mentioned in his account uh, about the conference held at Allahabad known as Prayag. Okay, so it was the one among the conference routinely convened by Harsha once in 5 years. And Harsha gave away his enormous wealth as gift to the members of all religious sects. And according to Huan Sang, Harsha was so lavish that he emptied the treasury and even gave away the clothes and jewels he was wearing. His statement might be one of admiring exaggeration. And Harsha's administration. What about Harsha's administration? The administration of Harsha was organized on the same line as Gupta did. Huan Sang gave a detailed picture about this, and the king was just in his administration and punctual in discharging his duties. He made frequent visit of inspection throughout his dominion, and the day was too short for him. Taxation was also light, and forced labor was also rare. and one-sixth of the produce was collected as land tax, and cruel punishment of the Mauryan period continued in the time of Harsha. Huyen Sang condemned the trial as barbarous and superstitious, and Harsha's army consisted of the traditional four divisions, that is, foot, horse, chariot, and elephant. The number of cavalry was more than 1 lakh and the elephant more than 60,000. This was much more than that of Mauryan army. And the maintenance of public record was the salient features of Harsha's administration. The archive of the Harsha period was known as Nilopitu and it was under the control of special officers. Both good and bad events happened during his time. Bad had been recorded. And next is society and economy under Harsha. Both Bana and Huansang portray the social life in the time of Harsha. The fourfold division of the society, that is Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, was prevalent. The Brahmin were the privileged section of the society and they were given land grant by the kings. The Kshatriyas were the ruling class, and Vaishyas were mainly traders. And Huan Sang mentions that the Shudras practiced agriculture and there existed many subcastes. The position of women was not satisfactory, and the institution of Swamvara, the choice of choosing her husband, had declined. Remarriage of widows was not permitted, and particularly among the higher caste. The system of dowry had also become common. The practice of sati was also prevalent, and Huan Sang mentioned three ways of disposal of the dead and cremation, water burial, and exposure in the woods. The trade and commerce had declined during Harsha's period. This is evident from the decline of trade centers, less number of coins, and the slow activities of merchant guilds. The decline of trade in turn affected the handicraft industry and agriculture. Since there was no large scale demand for goods, the farmers began to produce only in a limited way. This led to the rise of self sufficient village economy. And in short, there was a sharp economic decline as compared to the economy of the Gupta period. Next is cultural progress. The art and architecture of Harsha's period are very few and mostly followed the Gupta style. Huansan describes the glory of the monastery with many stories built by Harsha at Nalanda. And he also speaks of a copper statue of Buddha with 8 feet in height. The brick temple of Lakshmana at Sirpur with its rich architecture is assigned to the period of Harsha. And Harsha was a great patron of learning. His biographer Banabhatta adorned his royal court, and besides Charita, he wrote Kadambari. And other literary figures in Harsha court were Matanga Divakara and the famous Bhartri Hari, who was the poet, philosopher, and grammarian. Harsha himself authored three plays, that is Ratnavalli, Priyadarshika, and Nagananta. And Harsha patronized the Nalanda University by his liberal endowments. It attained international reputation as a center of learning during his reign. And Huan Sang visited the Nalanda University and remained as a student for some time. So this is the ruins of Nalanda University. Okay. So in new Nalanda University is there now. And the Chinese traveler of ancient Indian mentioned a number of educational institutions. The most famous among them were Hinayana University of Vallabhi and Mahayana University of Nalanda. Huan Sang gave a very valuable account of Nalanda University. The term Nalanda means giver of knowledge. It was founded by Kumaragupta I during the Gupta period and it was patronized by his successor and later by Harsha. The professors of the university were called Panditas, and some of its renowned professors were Dingnana and Dharmapala and Stiramati and Shilabhadra etc. And Dharmapala was a native of Kanchipuram and he became the head of the Nalanda University. And Nalanda University was a residential university and education was free, including a boarding and lodging. It was maintained with the revenue derived from 100 to 200 village endowed by different rulers. Though it was a Mahayana university, different religious subjects like Vedas, Hinayana doctrine, Sankhya, and Yoga philosophies were also taught. In addition to that, the general subjects like logic, grammar, astronomy, medicine, art were in the syllabus. And it attracted students not only from different part of India but from different countries of the East. And admissions was made by means of an entrance examination. The entrance test was so difficult that not more than 30% of the candidates were successful. And disciplines was very strict and more than lectures, discussion played an important part and the medium of instructions was the Sanskrit. And the recent archaeological excavations have brought to light the ruins of the Nalanda University. It shows the grandeur of this center of learning and confirms the account given by the Chinese pilgrims. And it had numerous classrooms and a hostel attached to it. And according to Itzing, the Chinese pilgrim, there were 3,000 students on its rolls, and it had an observatory and a great library house in three buildings, and its fame rests on the fact that it attracted scholars from various parts of the world, and it was an institution of advanced learning and research. So that's about the Nalanda University on his time. Okay, so this is a end of this unit, and so far we have discussed the sources for the study of Harsha, such as Harsha Charita and the travel account of Yuan Sang, and Harsha's early life and his military adventures, Harsha and his services to Buddhism like the Kanauj Assembly and Allahabad Conference, socio-economic condition and cultural development under the rule of Harsha, and the Nalanda University and its international reputation. Okay, so these are the topics we discussed under this unit. And here is one question for you. Describe the administration and society under Harsha as explained by Huan Sang. Okay, so 250 word question. Try to answer it and write it. So writing is very important for UPSC mains. So practice that. And so today we end here. For more content, do like, share, and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much.